All right, then hi everyone, and welcome to the 10th edition of the CAP Customer and Partner Roundtable. We, as always, or hopefully as always, we have a nice agenda prepared for you. Some introductional information basically at the beginning, presented by Birgit, Rupa, me. And then, as always, some updates from our team, what is new. And then at the end of the meeting, we still have enough time left to discuss your concerns, your questions, your topics. So we have enough time left today. We had to cancel, unfortunately, one slot which we planned initially. Christian Georgi, so our tools team manager, he is on sick leave. And also the other team members are not available, so we push this to the next time then. Yeah, then let's get started. Birgit, do you want to talk about this, right?
I can take that one, sure. Yeah, just a bit of housekeeping stuff. Probably most of you know that this is our customer roundtable meeting, meaning that's for both internal and external audience. And the question came already up. We are recording this meeting, but we are only recording the first part of the meeting. The Q&A part we will not record, and we will share later on recording and slides so that you can later on get that as well. And for sure, we offer a QA at the end of this session. And if you have any questions in between, you can always address them via chat, or yeah, I think we are in a small round. Probably you can also simply speak up. But yeah, we also prepared quite a lot of time in the end for Q&A for you. Right, then back to you, Sebastian.
Yeah, this slide I always leave in. I mean, it's not our main channel, which we use heavily, but nevertheless, we use it and we also can intensify using it. So if you have new requirements, which are not bugs, or you know, if you don't get stuck to a project or whatever, is really a feature requirement, then there is this customer influence tool, which many other projects also use at SAP. Also, RAP is using it in many other areas, S4 and so on. So we also use it. We have a channel there. I have a look at it from time to time. There's not a lot of traffic ongoing yet. So if you have something, you can create it there. You and other companies can vote it up. And yeah, if it reaches a minimum amount of votes, I think its number is pretty low, 5 or something, then we'll have a look and discuss it in the product team and get back to you. Yeah, then one information, probably you know, if not, recordings of the recap which happened in July are available now. Thanks to DJ Elms, also for the sidetrack, the Blue Room, we also have it now on YouTube. So everything is there. Also impressions from the days there. You can find all the information online in case you missed something or you would like to repeat something offline. You find all the information there. Yeah, and is the Rupa online or Max?
Max
Yes.
should be there.
Yep. All right. So next up is a short request for feedback. More specifically, we would love to hear from you about your experience running CAP applications on Kyma. Both the positive experiences, but yeah, even more important, the areas where things haven't gone as smoothly in the past for you. So maybe you've run into some challenges, identified some gaps, have feature requests, or perhaps there are parts of the setup that have caused some issue. So all of that input is, of course, extremely valuable to us. So if you run any CAP applications on Kyma and want to share some feedback, or you'd like to discuss your experience in general, either please raise your hand so that we can reach out to you, or you can just send us an email. The email should be on the slides, so you can contact either Rupa or me, and we'd be very happy to connect to you on that topic. That's it.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Max. Thanks, Max. And yeah, I think you will present this one, Birgit, right?
I can take over. Well, probably most of you are aware of Devtoberfest, and it's already ongoing. We are already in the 3rd week of Devtoberfest. There are many really great topics. And if you haven't joined yet, you can still do so. Everything is available online. And we also have many CAP sessions this year. If you could jump to the next slide, Sebastian.
Yep.
So this year, Friday is Cup Day at Devtoberfest, and we prepared here a slide for you with all the Cup sessions. So if you are interested in that, I can really highly recommend going there, watch the sessions. There are also contests going on, a lot of fun stuff. So I can really highly recommend going there. Check out the Devtoberfest group in our community, and yeah, simply go there, check out. You will definitely find some things that are relevant for you as well.
Yeah, and it's all on the SAP Developers YouTube channel, right? So you can also have a look at the stuff later on.
Yeah, it's available later, and it's available right now, but also later on.
Yeah.
Right, and then TechEd is already around the corner. It's beginning of November. This year we plan for a hybrid event. You can join either in person in Berlin, or we also offer several sessions as virtual event, and also here I can highly recommend to check out what is there. And as said, if you didn't register for the in-person event in Berlin, so I already heard that a couple of you will join us in Berlin, but for those of you who don't make it to Berlin, not everything is available virtual, but many things are also available virtually. You can find later on in our slides the link to the in-person event and to the virtual event, and also to the agenda that is already online. And also here, CAP is presented with several sessions, and yeah, also here I can highly recommend check that out. You will learn a lot, and also you will learn some new stuff there. So TechEd is always where we present our new things. So yeah, be curious, and we would be happy if you would join us there as well.
Yeah, thanks Birgit for the nice overview. And after the intro, we come to the first presentation for today. First deep dive, and for this I hand over to David and Sebastian.
Yeah, you can just, I'm just going to talk about the first slide, and then we'll hand over to David for the rest of the slides in the demo. So yeah, perfect, thanks. Yeah, so we recently have introduced some MCP servers, not only for CAP, but also Fiori Elements and UI5. So there's this triplet of MCP servers for SAP Build. Definitely Marian has already discovered them, because he then directly tested them out and wrote a nice blog post about them. So thanks also for that free marketing for us, or free advertisement. Yeah, and so here is just a slide, a collection of the blog posts announcing the servers, as well as links to the NPM packages. They are all open source, so check them out. Please provide feedback directly as issues on the repositories, for example. And now I'm going to hand over to our AI expert for the real stuff. So I had to do the demo last week in the Sub-Build Q3 webinar because David was on vacation. You can check out that video, but the one you're going to get presented right now is going to be a lot better anyways. So handing over to David.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. If you could just go to the next slide. Yeah, so in case not everybody knows what MCP is, it's kind of a hype lately. Started this year from Anthropic, and you can think of it maybe kind of like a language server for AI. So it's a standardized protocol. Many different AI clients support it, basically all of them nowadays. So you might know Copilot, Klein, Claude Code, Codex, Cursor. There are a lot of different AI clients. They all speak MCP, so they can connect to MCP servers, which typically run either locally on your computer or somewhere remote. The CAP one, which we built, runs locally. So why is it good for? LLMs already have a lot of knowledge, but in the first days of ChatGPT, let's say, you always had to copy paste between your code and the chat interface, that's tedious, and that's not what developers like to do. They want to have things automated. So with AI agents or MCP clients, it's possible to give the LLM access to external resources. That means more knowledge, more context, and you can also allow the LLM to generate code which then the MCP client executes. So for example, the LLM can run terminal commands or can generate code which then the MCP client can run in your terminal, so you don't have to copy paste commands, and you can just concentrate on the more higher level tasks, which is quite nice. This also gives a lot of autonomy to the LLM, so whole flows suddenly seem to work, which were impossible before. And yeah, that's why we also build MCP servers from CAP, and this gives you a bit more information. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we thought a long time what to include in such an MCP server. So we really want to keep it as minimal as possible and only concentrate on the most essential features, which the LLM by definition does not know, and that is two things. We provide two tools for the LLM to call. The first one is called Search Model. It allows the LLM to have access on the compiled picture of your project. Yeah, that's definitely not part of the training data of the LLM. So with that tool, the LLM can answer or ask questions like, what are my entities? Where are they exposed? What elements does a certain entity have? All the information you typically would need when generating custom handlers. Without that information, you can just forget about generating code, because you need effective model information. Now, without this tool, in principle, the LLM can read through a lot of files and figuring out themselves how your model looks like, but in more complicated projects, that will not work in practice. So this tool is very nice. So under the hood, it just compiles the whole project using CDS compile. We implemented some fuzzy search algorithm based on Levenstein algorithm, which lets you fuzzy find names of your entities, and then we just return it to the LLM as JSON, and then the LLM knows what to do, usually. The other tool, which is very important, is search docs, because even though the LLM already knows quite a lot about CAP, it does not know everything. And just today at lunch, I had a discussion with a colleague who argued that ChatGPT knows everything about CDS. And I said, no, it doesn't, and I gave an example that it doesn't know what bound actions are. And then he tried to convince me that it does. And then we tried it out, and in fact, it uses the wrong syntax. So LLMs by themselves usually don't have enough information about our APIs, especially when we ship a new update, and then there's suddenly a new API that for sure the LLM doesn't know. So we need to give the LLM access to up-to-date information, and that is what Search Docs does. And it's quite nice because it runs completely local on your machine. So there's no HTTP request except the initial fetching of some documents. And how it works under the hood is we use a local large language model, or a small language model, to be precise, to transform your search string or the search string from the LLM into a so-called vector embedding in a semantic vector space. And then we compare this embedding vector with all the embedding vectors of our pre-processed documentation, where we concentrated mostly on code snippets, and then the best results we return. So you have semantic search, or the LLM has semantic search and can find the respective information, the respective code snippets from Capira. Yeah, so that's the most important information. I think I would now share and show you a demo so you can see it in action. All right. Yeah. Is my screen readable? I hope it's roughly big enough.
It's good. Keep
okay,
going.
Perfect. So I'm starting in an empty directory, and for the AI client, you can use whatever you want. I like OpenCode. Others prefer Klein and VS Code or Copilot or Cursor or whatnot, Cloud Code, Codex. Use whatever you want. It's all compatible. There's not a big difference. So what I want to do is I want to start from scratch, and I want to create an empty CAP project. And sometimes it doesn't use our MCP server unless you add rules per a file called agents.md. That's a file which the client typically gives the LLM as more context, and there you can define rules such as always use the CDS MCP server whenever you do something related to CAP. You can also just write it in the prompt real quick. I think that's the easiest way to enforce that it actually uses our stuff, because then it can also have this additional layer of security regarding APIs. So the first prompt takes a bit because a lot of context is sent to the LLM based on this AI agent. Has nothing to do with our MCP server, it's just the way it is. So let's see what the plan is. So it searches here now the CAP documentation about how do I initialize empty projects, and it will find the init command, and it will do it. So it now ran cds init CAP project. Maybe I should have said what CAP project I created for a more meaningful name, but it's fine. And so it verifies that everything is fine, and so now I just quit that and I go into CAP project and start open code here, because now we want to iterate on this project. So I like to also have some version control. So initialize Jujutsu version control with Git. In case you don't know Jujutsu, it's an alternative version control system which also uses Git as a backend. It's quite nice. You should check it out. But it doesn't matter. So now we have version control. And now I say create a new CDS schema for orders entity. And again, CDS MCP, because I wanted to also look at our documentation, to make sure that the syntax is right and everything. Okay, so it searches for documentation. By the way, you don't have to read all this. This is for the LLM. This is not for you. And you only see a tiny little snippet of the whole stuff we send. So we provide a little bit more information. And so it can also create now directories, make clear DB service and app. That's quite nice. And now it will create the schema in the database directory. So I can see that there's a lot of stuff. So okay, it overdid it a bit. I just wanted the simple thing. So I can also say keep it as simple as possible, please. Only orders and order items. I could also let it go, but for the demo, I want to keep it simple. So it will now remove most of the stuff. The good thing is it's always an iterative approach. Usually you can also go into so-called plan mode without giving the LLM access to run all those tools automatically. That would have probably been smarter. But I just let it do its thing. If you don't like something, write a prompt, let it fix itself. So now it removed most of the stuff. Also created sample data, which I didn't ask for, but well, why not? We can also try to run it. Maybe there are some errors, maybe it works. Yeah, seems to work. Yeah, and even the sample data works. So it did more than I actually wanted, but it's fine. I'll give it that. So I can also now ask about projects. So I can create a new chat and I can say CDS MCP, what entities do I have and where are they served? Yeah, I can ask about my current project, and it will now use the other tool search model and filters for all entities, and then it can generate a nice overview of what entities I have, in this case orders and order items. I can also show orders to just see, okay, actually it already said which fields I have. And in this case it sends a call request to 404 because that's where my app is running, and it lists all the orders. So I can actually talk with my CAP app. So I can also say expand all items for orders. And now it will generate hopefully a curl command, which uses OData to give me the orders as well as the items. Yeah, as you can see here, now I have a nice overview of my current data. Okay, show me the elements of orders. I can ask because I want to also see if a enum is used. Because that's a nice feature of CAP, which I wanted to use. And I can see there is no status field, so I can say add a status field shall be an enum, and it shall use CDS MCP to use the proper syntax for enum. So in these kind of features, usually the LLM hallucinates because it doesn't know how enums are defined in CDS, but with the help of our MCP server, it can just retrieve the respective code snippet and knows what to do. So it's quite nice. Okay, commit to JJ. JJ is Jujutsu. Then we have already a working version, which we can now work on. All right, perfect. Now, I also want to create a bound action because that was one of those features ChatGPT did not know how it works. Cloud Sonnet, which I use here, sometimes does it right with bound actions, but with the help of search docs, it's a lot better. So add a bound action to orders to set it to, I don't know what, delivered. So it usually has enough context or can derive the right context to figure out what I actually mean by that. And now you can see again, it uses our MCP server to figure out what the syntax is to create bound actions, and it did it right, which is perfect. And yeah, that's something it would usually do wrong. But as always, it's just a tool for you. You have to check the result. There are a lot of errors usually happening. So it's important that you check your code. All right, I can also test it. So it already says also how to trigger this action. So I just do it. And now, okay, since it's already running, hopefully it figures it out that it can just run it. Yeah, so that works. And so what it was a bit fast. So here it triggered a GET request to orders to figure out what the initial status is. It's both in D, and now it sends a post request to trigger the action, and yeah, it verifies now that the status changed. I'm not sure. So it used the 5.5. Let's just validate. So it ends with 2001, the first one, and it's set to delivered, and delivered probably means L. Probably not what I would have chosen. Let's look at the, yeah, delivered as L. So it's correct. Maybe the enum is not as I would have designed it, but yeah, it works. So the test result is nice. I can also say, also add some tests using chest, CDS MCP, to create a simple test suite. That's also what every CAP developer should do to make sure that the app is working properly. And by the way, I can also stop the server. So it will not have any problems when running those tests. So it will now create a plan on how to create a test suite, and it will for sure use CDS MCP. I can also say it because I didn't see it in there. To figure out how tests work, because without our search docs functionality, it probably wouldn't know that CDS test exists. Sometimes it knows, sometimes it doesn't. It's really hard to tell, but with MCP, we can ground it to do the right thing. So it will now create a test directory, a test config. It will use chai, it's fine. And now it will write chest tests for the set delivered action. Let's see if that works, if it uses CDS test. And again, errors can happen. If errors happen, we let it fix it. That's the purpose of having this nice feedback loop for the AI. So you don't have to copy paste all the errors, but that looks, I think, okay. So it will now add a test script to package.json and run it. Also npm install might take a tiny moment. Now it will run the tests. And verify that everything works. There are probably errors. Usually the first try, there are always errors. In this case, there is an error. yeah, because CDS test is not installed, so now it will search for the documentation. Hey, how does that work with CDS test? And it already figured out that it needs to install the CDS test package. It's one of those changes we have done quite recently, so this is not part of the training data. It's a good proof that the LLM retrieves up-to-date information on how to do testing, right? We don't rely that all the knowledge is within the weights of the LLM. And yeah, now it will also change it. Let's see if it runs now. Yeah, there's probably something wrong with the dir name, because when you initialize CDS test, it has to be with the right directory. Now it again looks at the documentation, performs the edit. As I just said, the dir name was probably wrong. Now it tries it again. That looks better. Yeah, and the test pass. And just to finish up, I can also now say commit to JJ. It will hopefully write a nice commit message documenting our work. So I do think that this is already today how developers can work when creating projects. Of course, you would pay a bit more attention of what it generates. You would not just blindly accept it. Maybe first go into plan mode and validate all the actions it does. But you can see it kind of works quite nicely. And you don't need to be a full-blown CAP expert now to build applications. You don't have to check out the documentation for every tiny feature you want to use. You can just do the LLM, do the heavy lifting. Yeah, and just make sure that everything works in the end, because in the end, it's your responsibility if you push something. And with that, I thank you and hope you have a lot of questions.
Cool. Yeah, then thanks, guys. I think it's about time to come to the next topic of our agenda, which is Simon, who will talk about status transition flows with history as a lab preview. So I hand over to you, Simon.
Yeah, thank you. And hello from my side as well. So let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. So yeah, we can start with the presentation on the status transition flows. Yeah, what you can see here is the S-slide example of a status transition flow of the status process defined in the S-flight sample. So if you've been at recap, you may have seen this before. And yeah, this is the S-slide example. We have different statuses in here, like open and accepted, and then different transitions between these states, like accepting, closing, or canceling. So
We
this
lost the sharing, Simon.
Oh, yeah. I think it's an issue I had before,
Yeah.
so
Now it's
if
back.
it stops and I don't recognize it, then
Let you know.
maybe give me a short hint. Thank you. Okay, so with that we can jump right into the demo part, but as Sebastian already mentioned, this is a lab review. There may be some breaking changes to this, but we want to show what is possible now. So we will start by having a look at how to use the standard status transition flows with a simple example, and after that we will have a look at the flow history feature that is new compared to recap. So this is the flow we want to model now in S-flight. I open it here. If we have a look at the data model, at the schema of our application, we can see that our travel entity has a travel status, and then the travel status saves the travel status code, which are the different statuses we saw earlier in our diagram, like open, accepted, and cancelled. Stopped again. So with that, in our service, we have the projection on our schema entity, and we can add the flow.status annotation to our status field to tell CAP that this is the status field that we want to use now. Then there's really not much to do to use the status transition flow feature. There's mainly one line per action we can add. So the actions you can see here, like accepting or rejecting the travel, are the transitions from our diagram we saw earlier. We can have a look at accept, for example. We have the add from annotation, say add from open and to accepted. So really this one line we only need per action. We can have a look at it. If we start it at how this works, how this looks in action. So we have the object page here with our status field, for the example flight 2, which is in status open, and then we have our actions that are added up here, like accepting. We can click it, we see it automatically changes to accepted, and we can see accepting is not allowed anymore, but we can close, for example. This changes to closed, and all of our actions are not allowed anymore as closed is a finished state. So all of this behavior is achieved by adding this small line here. For the accept travel example, we can have a look at what would have been needed, which lines of code to achieve this without the feature. They are mainly 3 points in our code base, where there would have been manual things we need to do, with the first one in our service and the action handler implementations here being the logic of the flow. Status transition flow, there would have been the need for the manual implementation you can see here, which gets the travel from the database, checks if it exists, and if it does, then we do the status check, which is like the real logic of our flow. And if everything is fine, then we can update the status in our database. But we don't need this, so we can remove it again and have a look at the 2 more things we don't need, which are related to UI. The first one being adding the action to the object page, so that we can see them. It's not running, but we can see them on the object page and click them. This is done automatically, and then we also have to add the field control. 2 annotations for that, for each action. So there is the operation available, which determines whether the button is clickable or is not allowed to be clicked. And then we also would have been need to add the side effects manually so that the UI updates. We can remove it again, and this is removed as well. And this was only for the accept travel example. We can have a look at a small PR I opened, where I replaced everything we needed for the whole process here. But now I removed everything, and you can see it's quite a lot of stuff. So for each action, we don't need to add it to the UI anymore, and we don't need to add all the annotations, which are quite lots of lines of code, even for this simple example. And then our whole logic, all our handlers, our action handler implementations, we don't need them anymore, which is, even for the simple S-flight sample, quite a lot. So with that, we can come back to our service. This was all the basic functionality we have, and now we can have a look at the flow history feature. For that, we want to extend our basic flow from before with a new status. We name it blocked, and blocked is reachable from rejected, open, and accepted, as you can see with these arrows here. But then the special thing we want to achieve is that we want to go to the previous status that we came from. So if we block from open, then when unblocking, we want to go back to open again. If we block from accepted, then we should go back to accepted again. So to achieve this, we can use the new flow history feature. For that, we added the new status blocked here. And then there's one more thing we need to do in the data model, which is to add the flow history aspect to our travel entity. So you can see this comes from the common package. Then we can quickly get the sample and just add 2 more actions here. So we can have a look at that. We added the action blocked, which gets the from annotation from open, rejected, and accepted, and leads us to the blocked state. And then there is the unblock action that we add, which is allowed from blocked and then to. This is now the special thing we have, like a special variable we reserved, which says, go to the previous one. So you can add $flow the previous to come back to the previous status. So it should run. So we can have a look. And as you can see, automatically up here, the block and unblock actions are added to the object page. Accepted, this is still an accepted. We're now allowed to block, which leads us to block. And if we now want to unblock, this should go back to accepted. So this is exactly what we wanted to achieve, that we go to the previous state we've been before. Can also maybe reject it, then we are in status rejected. And if we now block, then we can unblock again. And as you can see, we go back to the rejected status. So yeah, everything that includes the history of the flow being added to your process of the entity. For that, you can use the new flow history feature. And I think that's it from my side with a quick overview on the flows, set of transition flows.
Great. Thanks a lot, Simon. Having a look at the time, I would propose that we go on with the next topic by Daniel, talking about our new samples. And then we anyway have at the end, hopefully enough time to cover all the questions. So yeah, let's hand over for the last slot from our team. So I hand over to you, Daniel. I think you share yourself, right?
Yeah, thanks. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to share again what we have promoted also in the August release notes about the CapHire samples. And yeah, you find it here in the August release notes, new code docs and samples, and very quickly, yeah, talks about there's a new home and this bookmarkable root organization on GitHub, just CapHire, and highlighting 3 first things we added there. We added the deployment features now that we have built-in support provided by the tools team to automatically do a CI/CD with a focus on CD. So continuous deployment, and showcase how to do that with standard GitHub actions. There are, of course, also SAP-specific enhancements to these kind of things, like the flow and pipeline techniques we have from the SAP colleagues. But this was the intent to show how it works in general. Yeah, and then also because we split now the former monorepo of the samples, where bookshop and reviews and orders were always just subfolders meant to represent individual separate projects. But as a matter of fact, many people just, didn't believe that it is designed as separate projects which can run in separation, or didn't have the imagination to understand that it's just a monorepo. Now they are separate repos, all these tiny things like bookshop is a separate repo from the CapHire common, etc. And the last one is we enable discussions. So let's look at that in more detail. So that is this org. What's in here is really both the CapHire documentation as well as the curated lists of samples are there. And we are talking about the famous bookshop, etc., like reviews and order service, as well as S-Flight, which is now called X-Flight and X-Travels, coming to that in a second, and the Internet app. These are the main 3 samples. Now, and as promoted here in the discussions, that goes back to sessions we had at Recap with you, where you told us, hey, give us good documentation, up-to-date documentation, and even more important, samples, and keep them up to date and make sure we always use these samples all over the place. And this is what we started with that. So we consolidated our samples, which were sort of spread around before. Now they are all in one place. So whenever you want to see our samples, refer to here. And we guarantee that we keep them up to date, and we increase the efforts to keep them up to date and showcase new features, like Simon just showed the status transition flows. They are already built in there and will be published in there as well. So that's just the starting point. We will add much more of these things and showcasing the new features, and more and more have the practice of doing the samples as a done criteria. Now, just maybe 2 things, because we have now this list. And by the way, if you want to see all the samples, you can see them here. Of course, I frequently like to use that tab thing in GitHub here, and use the compact display. Allows me to see everything on one page without scrolling. So these are our samples. This is a Capaya documentation. This is still the old mono repo, but now working with Git submodule links, referring to the individual author projects, but working still in the same way as before. And these are the individual author projects. Regarding X-Travels and X-Flights, this thing is preparation for a lot of things we will show in future. I teased them at Recap Keynote already, when you remember this data integration, 1-slide thing. You will learn much more on some target sessions, also a hands-on, just finalized by Steffen Weinstock. Watch out for this name and join that. Yeah, it's saying X-Flights, it's serving as a master data service, flights, airlines, and airports. And X-Travel is the former S-Flight application who consumes this master data, showcasing how we do data integration, cup-level data integration. Think of it as Kali, as an extension of Khaleesi. Yeah, and a lot of things are happening here already. You can also watch us if you want, because we are doing that publicly in branches here, the next generation of cup features. Yeah, and what we can also do is now publishing these individual projects, because they are individual projects, and we did so using GitHub packages, which are like NPM, but hosted by GitHub. And you see here the ones that we published already: Bookshop itself, this common reuse package, reviews reuse package, all etc. And also the Java colleagues joined the party now and already published a Maven package in there. Now what we can do is very quickly something like this. I git clone the bookshop first, and then I can just run it with a globally installed CDS. I don't even need some CDS installation. Oops, sorry. Bookshop, of course, works. And the other thing which I actually wanted to show is, and if I clone the bookstore application, which, as you might know, is a composite application that comprises dependencies to author packages, and I want to do this as well. then I get these error messages because the author packages are not installed yet. And now we can just go in there, do an npm add, install, sorry. And the author packages are now, downloaded as usual. So it behaves more real world. And now it should come up. Right, and I have the other services here, the review service and the order service and the data viewer, etc. Yeah, so that's this one part, and the other part again, when we see these repositories and we have the bookshop, for example, then you'll see here at the right-hand side deployments, our deployments. Not sure because I think the production deployment is still not usable or reachable by everybody out there. But the nice thing that especially I'm not an ops guy, I'm a dev guy. And now I can have continuous deployments, and when it's deployed, I find the link to open the UI. So it means all of our applications are always there and runnable. And I don't have to do anything. And by the way, Stefan Waldmann, who built this deployment stuff, he told me when he demonstrated it, hey Daniel, just do it yourself, this deployment, and it's pretty easy. I made it the first time to deploy to PDP. Yeah, and last thing, we decided to switch on discussions, which is a standard thing in GitHub, as you might know. Sebastian in the first slide showed how you can add feature request using the influence sub.com thing. That is the official channel. But still, we decided that we switch this on as well and find out how we could maybe use it to fill a gap. So for example, we did this announcement here, BJ added a information here and invited authors, and some people started reaching out with, questions, say, or discussions. We might even decide that we promote this as a standard way to reach us, for example, regarding bug reports, regarding things which are not open source, because on the open source packages go to the issues in there. So just wanted to put your attention to that. Feel free to use it, as some already did, and here we already answered. And I like this Stack Overflow options of somebody can vote it to be answered. And as you can see here, somebody added this and it's unanswered. Even to the CUP team, this is new, this channel. So therefore, we are not that on top of it yet, but we will change this now in the next months. Okay, with that, I would close the report.